And we are live. What's going on? Welcome to the Ryan Stick Show. You might be asking yourself, what the hell are you doing live at 11 o'clock on a Friday afternoon or morning or whatever you day people call this? But here we are, and I'm live with Ryan Kruger. Dude, this guy to this side, he directed a movie called Fried Berry that fried my brain. And that's very ironic considering the subject matter. Ryan, before we begin this epic tale of the journey into this movie, would you mind if I show people the trailer to this movie so they know exactly what the heck we're talking about?
Let's do it. We can do a trailer reaction while we're doing it.
Yeah, we can. They can hear us, so let's do this. They can hear us, so let me get.
We'll pretend it's the first time that we're seeing it.
Okay, cool. Oh, they have hands.
How long have you been, Barry? You know what I like about you, Barry? You don't say much. But you're a good listener.
You're absolutely fucking right. You're not the father. You're a useless piece of shit.
So what are you doing, young man? How did they catch you? Yeah! You did something bad. You killed someone.
You're not my husband, are you?
Yeah, wait for the music.
Oh yeah. Okay, we got to talk about that soundtrack later, dude, because this is my jam.
I'm gonna miss you. You're more important than us. You have to save yourself. What is your name?
Jesus
That's
Christ.
a big one. Wow, you big boy.
That is nuts. That's like, I've seen this movie, and even I'm watching all those trailers. I'm like, right, you guys got a lot of stuff done, and you guys got a lot of stuff done in this. So before I ask you about like, how did you make the movie? Like, how does an idea of Fried Berry come to you? Because this is a movie like none other. You can't just think, okay, so Fried Berry, he does this, and this. This is kind of like it's almost like throwing darts at an idea board, yet it actually works. It feels fluent. It actually feels like it's all the same movie and not random. But if you were to describe to somebody, it seems like kind of a bunch of random sequences, but it's not.
Yeah, I always describe Fried Berry as a road trip movie, and instead of the car, Barry's the car, and we go on this journey with him as him, and it's one crazy thing after the next. I mean, it's about a heroin addict that gets abducted by aliens, and it just happens to be that the aliens pick up this fucked up drug addict instead of like a normal person, and goes on this journey. And it's the darker side of life, the darker side of Cape Town, and all the it's basically alien tourists on holiday. Okay,
first of all, I'm glad you said that. Now I can confirm he did get abducted by aliens, because I was on the fence besides the beginning and a little bit at the end. I was kind of like, is he or is he just high? Because I know a lot of high people. So but that, yeah, it was just something else. And my buddy Steven, who works with Fantasia, he showed an image, and he's just like, this is the movie I'm watching right now. And just by even the colors and saturation, I kind of knew what this was going to be my bag. And I find color and tone so important in a movie. But definitely, you have a lot of different tones in this movie. But how did you find that kind of like super saturated, almost pink, fluorescent, yet on the dark edge of
yeah, visual? I mean, when I got the idea to do Fried Berry, it was one of those things where, I mean, originally it was a 3-minute experimental film, and we got that went to like a shitload of festivals around the world. We got all this random fan art. We won about 13 awards, but we never ever planned to do a feature film. So it was one of those things that where I was at the time in my career and in my private life, I just went through it like a hell of a lot. So I did. I had something wrong with my kidney. I had an operation. I got sepsis and nearly died. Went through a breakup. My cat had cancer, and then I went into like depression, and I went down this like dark, dingy, horrible hole. Nothing to do with drugs or anything like that, but I just went down this dark hole, and it was, I was kind of at that like last point, that last thread where I was like, fuck, I'm done for. And I'm like, what is at the top of my list that I've always wanted to do in life? And it was to make a feature film. So then randomly I got this idea, and, I thought about, the original short film, which had nothing to do with aliens or anything. It was just a drug addict in a building on his highs and lows, which basically had no story. It was just experimental film. So then I got the idea, and I wrote 50% of the movie scene brief breakdown, which was very brief. It was like, Barry goes here, Barry does this. And we shot over a year and a half. We shot 28 days in total. So it was plan, shoot, plan, shoot. And the movie developed as we went. And that was the cool thing. But it had to be, because my lead actor isn't an actor, his actual background is a extra.
Okay.
So it was one of those things where, I wrote 6 pieces of dialogue for the main dialogue in the movie, and then everything else was workshopped on the day. And then, we just improv, like all the actors, and working with all the actors, we just workshopped on the day, and things started to develop. And it was just that very organic procedure in making the movie. The only person that didn't improv was Gary, because he's a non-trained actor. So I had to work with him very, very closely. And I mean, there were so many scenes where I'm filming Gary a close-up or whatever, and I'm like, okay, Gary, copy my face. Do this face, that face, or do this. So I've got different images. So it had to be the right story. It had to be the right character, and I had to mold the movie around Gary to make it work. And there's nobody that could have also played this part than Gary Green. Even if I got the best actor in the country to play it, it wouldn't be the same. So I love characters. Gary's got this amazing face, and nobody looks like him, and he's just got this presence. So he gave 120%.
There he is, right there.
There he is. And yeah, I just had to work very closely with him. So every day, I mean, he knew, day one, I said to him, I said, listen, I want to make a feature, and it's going to be based on Fry Barry, but I'm going to expand the whole, an actual story, and you're going to be the lead. And he was like, whoa. And I said, here's the story, here's what it's about, but I'm not going to tell you anything else. So every day he arrived on set, he didn't know what we were doing. So I had to have that clean slate, blank page every single day, or otherwise he would overthink it. So I really had to work close with him to get exactly what I wanted. But the funny thing, as you know, that you've seen it, his character as the alien, he mimics like a lot of people. So it's funny that there's a lot of that mimicking, and then there's me directing Gary saying, copy me, do this, mimic me, off screen while we're busy shooting. And then on top of that, it's actually quite funny, because Gary, when I normally speak to Gary, I'll say like, oh, Gary, so, I went out for my birthday the other night and it was great. And then he would go, oh, so you went out for your birthday the other night? And I'm like, yeah, I just told you that. So he's actually kind of like that as well, where he'll repeat the sentence that you've just said. So, but I've known Gary now for about 11 years. His background is extras. He's just normally in the background as an extra. He's done a bit of stunt work over the years that I've known him. I've put him in music videos, and he's had a bit more featured parts and here and there, and the stuff that I've done. And then when we did the experimental, that was the biggest part that he did, and he did it really well. And as I said, going back to it, it had to be the right story, the right character, and shoot it the right way for it to actually work, or otherwise it would just crumble.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just going to bring up his picture again here. This vase is comedic. He is a comedic genius without even realizing it, and a lot of it has to do with your editing choices, like something bizarrely crazy. And I'm trying to think of the right term. Just basically, it seems like the world will be on fast forward, turned at 11, and then it'll do a hard cut to him sitting in a van, just like this.
Yeah,
and that's
the thing. Yeah, that's the thing with Fried Barry. It's like you've got those horror elements, you've got those sci-fi elements. There's a lot of dark humor. There's a lot of comedy. There's a little bit of a love story, and it's all that. So it's quirky, upbeat, crazy. It's designed to make you feel uncomfortable. It's designed to do our best of our ability to entertain the audience. That you can't go and grab a drink quickly and then come back. Otherwise, you'd be like, what the fuck's happened? Why is he here? Or what happened to him? So, and we try to make it very unpredictable as possible and to go on this journey. But Fried Barry is one of those movies, you either love it or you hate it. The people who love it will love it. The people that hate it will hate it. And that's a good thing. And it's all right. And I know, at the end of the day, and going back to, one of your first questions was, the look of it and the lighting and stuff. So I wanted to go out there and make a cult style film. So my biggest influences are like 80s movies, and within Fried Barry, I mean, there's so many references from, like, whether it's Aliens or Terminator, or 70s movies like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or 90s movies like Bad Boy Bobby, or going back to the 80s. You got Starman. I mean, I even gave Gary, the one thing I did give Gary to prep for a little bit was really just a walk. And I gave him like Edward Scissorhands. I was like, just check out Johnny Depp and Edward Scissorhands, where he's just like, he's walking around and he's just walking. And that was basically it. But it was a great, fun movie. We had so much fun making this movie. It's definitely not for the faint-hearted.
No.
And that's why I'm saying it's like the people that have loved it so far has raved about it. And we've got so many people saying, "Oh, this is definitely going to be a cult classic, and it's a masterpiece," and all this, and which is crazy for me to hear. I mean, it's my first feature, so I'm always like, "Are they talking about my movie?" So it's crazy, and it's been a lot of fun. And there's so many people, like hundreds of people, like literally hundreds of people have reached out and messaged me, and the press and everything around this movie has been amazing. I'm doing 2-3 interviews a day for the past like 4 weeks, and like today I did like 6 interviews. This is my 6th interview, so it's been amazing, and it's just been a great journey. And like I said, so the people that have raved about it, and then we've had more good than bad, by far more good than bad, and we've had like a few bad reviews. But as I said, it's cool, man. It's cool that, I mean, I always say to people, I mean, the amount of movies that we watch, or we check something out on Netflix, and it's like, you watch something, you'd be like, yeah, it's all right, or this is shit, and you'll either get 10-20 minutes into it, or you'll switch it off, or you'll watch the whole thing, you switch it off, and then it's not even worth a conversation to tell anybody about it. And that's what I love about this film, that even if you don't like it, you will speak about it in detail, and that's great. And even people that look at that or check that review or whatever, they'll be like, this actually sounds like my type of film, and want to check it out. So, I think as filmmakers, we gotta do something different. And a lot of people have been saying, it's unique and crazy, and we haven't seen a film like this before. We definitely haven't seen a heroin addict getting abducted by aliens and taking over his body. and yeah, dude, I think our job as filmmakers, we're living in the generation of remakes and stuff, or they just changed the name, and it's now it was in the snow, and now it's in the sand or in the desert, and that's the thing. And I think it's good to keep the audience and also just do something different, and try and do something different, and I think we've achieved that. And looking at the whole of it, and to go out there and make a cult style movie, and then to get the recognition of people keep saying, "Oh, this is definitely a cult movie," or "It's going to be a cult classic," and this is amazing. And it's that fine line to do that type of film. Everything has to be right. whether it's music and the tone of the film and the look of the film and the edits. So everything is designed for Fry Barry the way it looks, the way it's perceived, and that's the thing. I mean, there was the one car drug sequence in it, and we actually edited that a whole completely different way originally, and it was so funny. And then I was just like, it's the wrong tone. And it was really funny, but I was just like, it's not the right tone for this cult style movie. It has to be more like cinematic, and it has to be not as funny as, you know, I mean, there's loads of comedy in the movie, but it's just, it's keeping to that certain tone, and you can easily go off that line. So we re-edited it, and I was happy that I did that. So it's very important to, you know, and that's what, going back to like all the references, you know what I mean? It's for all the people that love this style of movie and love those 80s films, they'll see all those references within the movie, and that's what also, you know, gets, you know, has those like Easter eggs there, and that, you know, what people will love about it.
Of course. I'm hearing my voice. I'm hearing my voice through the speech here.
Oh, I was going to say, okay, I can turn it down a bit.
Yeah, maybe. All right, cool. Can you still hear me at all, though?
Yeah.
All right, cool, great. All right, well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with these live technical fuck-ups, and I'm actually glad this has happened. Was there anything during the shoot that kind of like, you know, just, you said you guys had a blast during this movie, but everybody knows making a film is a problematic process. Was there anything that went horribly wrong during a shoot, but in the spirit of Fried Barry actually kind of turned it into something like a nice little accident that turned into a plus?
I think there was, I mean, there wasn't anything that stands out or anything, but I think it was the way that we made it. Like, nothing dramatic happened, like bad or anything like that, but the way we made it, being organic and being just living in the moment, that's where all the gems came from, where it was like, fuck, it was such a good idea. And that came from improv, or getting the idea and going, oh, cool, I've got a great idea, let's do this. So even though it was improv, a lot of it, but it was still workshopped. So we were still there workshopping it on the day, saying, let's try this, let's try that. Oh shit, I got a good idea. Let's see what happens if we do this. And that's how it went, like throughout the whole of the movie. So like normal films where it's stuck in concrete, where you've got the script, you've got these actors, this is how it's going to go down, and this is how you're going to perform, this is how I'm going to direct it. So to not have that and throw that out the window and just being in the moment and just feeling in the moment of being there, that's what made Fry Barry. This is the only way to make this type of movie, having a lead that has no acting experience, training, or anything like that. So it was the only way to, you know, to make this film like the way we did.
Of course, the movie seems like a jam session, like you're talking about, but it seems like a good jam session where everybody playing is really good, and that's the type of like, oh, what's going to happen now? You have to have a great, you have to have a great bunch of musicians or a great bunch of filmmakers coming together. Now, I just brought up music. The music in this movie hit me right away, even in that trailer, because 9 Inch Nails is pretty much in my blood, and John Carpenter music and Carpenter Brut and all these great bands. Could you tell me some of your favorite bands growing up and the musical influences you try to pull from to put into Fried Barry?
Fuck, dude. Well, me personally, I like a lot of different music. I mean, from 50s, 60s to, you know, to 80s. I mean, I love a lot of different music. But I am for Fry Barry. We had an amazing person scored the film, a guy called Hazer, and Hazer is a big DJ here for like electronic music. And I've worked with Hazer quite a lot now over the past few years on a few experimental films and stuff like that. And I love his music and I love his sound. And, you know, a few references there were like, you know, Hans Zimmer or like Blade Runner soundtrack. And that's why going back to getting that right tone is like, if you look at like a movie like Blade Runner and Vangelis doing the music back in the 80s, and then if you take away Vangelis out of Blade Runner, it's not the same movie. No, at all. It's that tone, and it's that right tone that makes it work, you know.
What besides Blade Runner, I was watching your interview with Jason Rockman. Everybody, you can watch that on the Real Jason Rockman Instagram page. Another wonderful interview with Ryan here. Besides that movie, though, is there another movie you can think of that has that soundtrack that you're just like, when bringing it up, your eyes almost widen up and you're like, oh wow, yeah, now that's a soundtrack.
Well, I love Interstellar. Interstellar is a fucking great movie by Christopher Nolan, and that soundtrack is I listen to it like nearly. I listen to the Vangelis Blade Runner soundtrack and the Interstellar soundtrack like a lot, just before I go to bed, or I play it in the background. And yeah, it's just beautiful, amazing music that just takes you on this journey. But as I said, like music wise, I love so much. I love so much. It's just like watching movies. There's a time and place to watch a certain type of movie.
Of course.
If it's a Sunday, you've been out on the Saturday and you're tired, you just want a popcorn movie where you can just sit and enjoy, and you don't give a shit about what. Like I wouldn't watch Fry Barry on a Sunday after a night out.
I know what you mean. Netflix thinks I have no taste because I usually put on the shittiest of shit when I'm working. Because if I'm on the computer, I'm not going to insult a movie like Fried Berry by watching it while checking emails. But I will watch The Water Boy or something like.
You know what? I was going to say it's probably going to be an Adam Sandler movie.
there you go. Adam Sandler's just easy to.
He's got like there's so many Adam Sandler movies on
there you
Netflix.
Go. Not that I wouldn't love, hey Adam, if you ever see this, not that I wouldn't want to be in one of these movies, period. But yeah, it's just the type of mood, and I understand totally when someone's like, "What's your favorite style of music?" When I was a teenager, I was like, "I'm a punk rocker, and all I listen to is punk," and you're almost trying to find your own identity, so you kind of like attach yourselves to things to help form said identity. But then when you grow up, you're like, man, I was missing out on all these amazing genres of music because I thought I had to I thought I had to like stay in my lane or something. So when it comes to films, what are some of the first films that you saw that made you say, not only do I want to be a filmmaker, but magic is real, and I can't believe that this film exists. Can you remember like a movie that made you feel like that?
Well, I'm an 80s kid. So for me, it's like if you look at like Spielberg's 80s movies, whether it's E.T. or Empire of the Sun, or if you look at movies like Goonies or Stand By Me, or you're looking at Lost Boys or The Fly or Christine or Big Trouble in Little China, you look at all those movies, and I was very lucky to grow up in my household where I just watched by the time it hit the 90s, I already saw like most famous films and on the ground like B movies up to date from 50s and 60s, 70s and 80s, and then I was already hit the 90s, so I was kind of like up to date. Which I think in this day and age now, it's impossible to stay up to date because there's so much content that constantly comes out. But those films, the music, I mean, if you look at it can be like Star Wars, or it can be Indiana Jones, or, Empire of the Sun, and you look at like John Williams, and, used to score those films. I mean, it's a big part of the movie. It's a huge part of the movie, and it's a huge part of your memory for that movie. You know what I mean? So as soon as you hear it, you're like, it reminds you of your childhood, and it's just that magic journey that you'd go on as a kid and wanting to be Han Solo or Indiana Jones or whatever,
I'm glad you brought that up because, it's kind of weird. Like you have a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy right now that uses a bunch of 70s pop songs. But Star Wars was a space movie made in the 70s, and if they just decided to make a contemporary soundtrack, all those songs you hear in Guardians of the Galaxy would have been in Star Wars, but it wouldn't have
that's cool. That's a good way to think about it. It
wouldn't have been Star Wars, though. Star Wars is timeless because they decided to make it timeless. Yeah. So it's funny. It's funny the way that works out. But with let's get back to your movie because I don't know, dude. You seem like a great guy, and you seem like we could talk about pretty much anything. But we got to put those butts in the seats for Fried Barry and COVID cases in their sofas or whatever. But where can people check out Fried Barry now that Fantasia has sadly wrapped?
So we're playing at Grimfest in Manchester in the UK. We're playing at Fantastic Fest in I think it's in the Netherlands, I think. And then we're playing a Fantasy Film Fest that's going to be like in 7 cities in Germany. We've got 2 festivals in Italy. We got 2 festivals in France. So yeah, you guys must check it out. I think if you go to frybarry.com, a lot of the information is on there, or go to ryankruger.tv, or check out Fry Barry or me, Ryan Kruger, on Instagram or Facebook. And yeah, just follow the journey and check it out. And if you want to watch the film, it's more than likely coming to your country, which a lot of the film festivals are online at the moment. So if there's a festival in your country that you couldn't normally go to, then the chances are it's going to be online this year, which anybody in that country can actually watch the movie.
Have you ever been? Oh, sorry, I'm hearing my voice again.
Sorry, I don't know why that's happening.
It's all good, whatever. Have you ever been to the Fantasia Film Festival before? Because I'm a little heartbroken that I couldn't have witnessed this movie in that particular audience who is worldwide known for meowing and cheering. And I think Fried Barry would have been the equivalent of like watching like the Big Four play in one show.
And it would have been awesome. I would have absolutely loved to have gone to the physical festival. And I mean, there's loads of festivals that we've already played. I mean, we won at Macabre. We won best international film. At Fantaspoa, in Brazil, Gary got best actor. And yeah, dude, I mean, at Fantasia, it would have been awesome. It would have been a dream to go. But I also think it's also I mean, I would love to sit there and to watch it. Luckily, we watched Fry Barry at CineQuest in San Jose on the big screen, which was awesome to see it on big screen. It is definitely a better experience, watching it with people and watching it on the big screen, definitely. But I think it's been a blessing in disguise, in a sense of, for online streaming with the movie, because you're looking at 250 to 300 people per screening normally at a theater, on the cinema. And then now with this pandemic going on, there might be only like 50 people that's allowed in because of social distancing and stuff like that. So it's kind of been a blessing in disguise, because I mean, in Brazil, we had 4,000 people watch the movie. At
nice.
Macabre, we must have got the same numbers, and probably the same with Fantasia. So it's definitely, for a filmmaker, yes, it is great to go to the festival. It would have been amazing. But at the same time, it's definitely better for the filmmaker, in a sense of more people are watching your movie and more people are talking about your movie online. And the amount of people that have messaged me, and I'm talking way over 100 people have reached out to me on different platforms. And I've also checked just, Google and Fry Barry and see who's talking about it. And it's been amazing. Like, the people are like speaking about it. And when you make a movie, at the end of the day, you want people to check it out. You want people to see it. So it's been definitely a blessing in disguise.
I'm just kind of thinking in terms, because I come from a musical background, and I'm just thinking about when I was a teenager, like my life was music and movies, and that's like what really tied it in. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, I remember when The Offspring put out this song called Pretty Fly for a White Guy, and then all of a sudden people who would never have liked Offspring are all like, yeah, bro, check out Offspring, bro, Pretty Fly for a White Guy, bro. And I'm kind of thinking Fried Barry is kind of like that album. Fried Barry is kind of like listening to Offspring Ignition, even before Come Out and Play. And like, if you're like, a person who knows your shit, Ignition. And I bring this up because the Offspring, we're going to play 2 shows in Montreal, and unfortunately something happened at a press conference in the same venue, and they couldn't get to their equipment. So when they were playing this show, they couldn't get their guitars, they couldn't access their pre-recorded stuff. And as an Offspring fan, I've listened to them create all these different novelty songs that keep working on the average, the casual listener, you could say. And then it's the pinnacle moment of any Offspring fandom, where because unfortunately someone tried to shoot like a political leader in the middle of let's say they were playing their first show on Tuesday. On Wednesday that happened, so Thursday they had to find a new venue, rent guitars, and they come on stage and they say, all right guys, we're gonna play Ignition front to back tonight. And I see this divide in the audience where half of them are just like, what the hell's Ignition? And then you have me and the other people all kind of perk up and make eye contact with each other and say, oh man, this is for us. And that's how it felt when I saw Fried Berry. It reminded me of being in high school, liking Ignition when everyone else was, Pretty Fly for a White Guy. I'm like, you don't know anything about Offspring. It feels like this is a movie for the Fantasia fan that has always known the power and the power of the true genre cult film. And I think that Fried Berry, it's not a pretentious like bunch of scenes that are thrown together to be weird for the sake of being weird. There's something organically beautiful about the chaotic nature of this movie. And
but even Gary's, Fried Berry, the character. I mean, the funny thing is, like, the people that have watched it, it's almost like you hate this guy, and then when you start the film, you think, how am I gonna? This is the main guy in the film, and we hate him. How are we ever gonna like him? And then as the movie goes on, and he gets abducted and all that you start to feel for him, and the alien is learning and mimicking, and he's becoming more human. He's learning how to be a good person and a better person than the drug guy. So it's also like showing you like how fucked up drugs can fuck you up and everything and change your life and everything. But it's also like a second time round, like a second chance. So I kind of feel that even though the alien's in control, Bastard Barry is taking a back seat, but also maybe he's learning something from this whole experience, that he's sitting there going, fuck, I was horrible. I wasn't a nice guy. And maybe if I ever get out of this, I'll try my best to be a nicer guy,
Yeah. I love that. I love that the alien was living Barry's life better than he was, and the random journeys he will go on through this movie and where you take him.
That's the thing. It's just like everything was like, of course, the improv and the workshop, but everything was well thought out. It's not like we rocked up on set and we didn't know what the fuck we were shooting. We knew what we were going to shoot. We had the subjects there, and it's like what we make out of it, and living in the moment and what can come up. So everything was well thought out and planned, and that's why I said it's designed the way it is. Yes, the storyline's easy. It's about a heroin addict that gets abducted by aliens, and it's an alien tourist, and he's this like a road movie. He's the car, and we're going through this journey. But that's the storyline, and I think some of the best storylines that you can pitch in a few sentences. And I'm not saying Fried Berry is an absolutely amazing movie and a unique movie, even though some people have been saying that. But it's about the journey. The storyline's simple, and and it's like it's also without Gary, there would be no movie. He is Fried Berry, and it's about the journey that this guy goes on. We don't need all these other side stories and this and this. It's about his journey, him experiencing life and these characters, and it's the characters experiencing himself.
Yeah. Well, the childlike innocence that this alien has as he experiences, spoilers, everybody, sex for the first time. But first of all, before we go today, because we only have a few minutes left, I just like to give a huge shout out to your team and your special effects team, your practical effects team. I mean, I'm a big fan of aliens, period. I love all things when it comes to aliens, abductions, all that. And the look of the aliens was incredible. You only see him for a little bit in the beginning, people, but it's a very, very effective fucking alien abduction scene. I will say that. I've seen a lot of them, and it's probably in my top 5 alien abduction scenes ever. I used to think Fire in the Sky was like a really big deal, and you only really see them for a minute and a half, really, and then an hour and 45-minute movie in Fire in the Sky. You only see them for a little bit. They show you the aliens in the fucking beginning. We're talking like 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes in. So big shout out to your effects team, because your effects team, who was the editor of this movie?
So I worked, me and my producer, James C. Williamson, we work very close with my editor, Stephen Duplessis. He's a brilliant editor. He's amazing at what he does.
Brilliant.
I've worked with him now for probably about 10 years, and I won't work with anybody else. So, and yeah, I'm very lucky to have an amazing team and passionate people. And, I surround, when you're making a movie, it's a collaborative thing. And I surround myself with people that I admire and the people that I love their work. So, I mean, I do love Fry Barry, even though it's my film, but it's not just my film. I admire the actors, and that's why they're in the film, because I love them as actors, and I love Hazer for his music, and I love Steve, my editor, and I love all those people because they're great at what they do, and it just makes, everything put together and gels together, just complements every scene from one thing to the next. And and it's even the grade and the sound mastering, everything. I mean, we had an amazing team, and I'm very lucky that I surround myself with these people, and we work very well together. And there's not as much. My visual effects guy, Blake Prinsloo, he's a great visual effects artist. He did the spaceship and the stretch out jaw and all that. But there's actually not that much, visual effects. And we had the opening scene in space was a director from Johannesburg, a very good friend of mine, Chris Santos. He did the opening sequence. But there's not that much visual effects in the movie. And me going back to my 80s films that I love, I wanted to get everything in camera. I mean, when Gary gets abducted by the aliens, that was the whole thing. I'm like, we got to get a crane. We got to be able to see him go up. I don't want to shoot a green screen. It's got to be in camera. So I think it's important I think that's where a lot of films go wrong these days, that you want it in camera. You want to be able to see it and know that it's real,
Well, yeah. Well, we could talk for hours about that. About basically, even if you have a guy in a rubber costume punching somebody, it's a lot better than having a $2 million special effect punching somebody. Because when you see CGI pain, you're like, I guess it must hurt. But when you see like a physical reaction in a practical sense, even as cheesy as an outfit can be, like, you feel that pain.
It's the way you shoot it. It's the way you light it. It's all those things. You know what I mean? It's how, it's all those things. I mean, you look at these like shark movies now, these disaster, blockbuster, meant to be blockbuster shark, all these shark movies, and it's like the visual effects are like terrible in it. But also those people watch it and the people love it because they know what it is. They know it's meant to be like that. But it's like, you're going back to like Jaws with Spielberg. You don't always have to see it. You don't always have to see these things. And it's like what you said before, even, everything was like well thought out. We didn't just throw scenes in there to shock people or anything like that. It was just the craziness of the journey and what this guy sees. And it's just in a random sad way that these aliens have come down and they just picked the wrong guy to abduct. They just picked the worst fucking guy to abduct him,
But did they? I mean, I think Barry's life was a lot better as a result of it. So I don't know. Maybe if they pick some distinguished, boring asshole, first of all, it wouldn't be much of a movie. But all right,
it wouldn't be the same if we just abducted this geeky IT guy.
Yeah,
it just wouldn't be the same, or would it? I don't know.
All right. Amazing. Well, I look forward to seeing Fried Barry again someday. And please sell posters, because look at this poster, everybody. I'm going to get rid of this banner so we can appreciate the banner in its full glory. But look at this. Look. It just amazing. All right. Well,
the guy that did the poster, guy from Brutal Posters, he did this actually from Liverpool. But yeah, I love the poster. It's so striking, and it's one of those things. You look at the poster, you look at the trailer, and it is what you think it is, but it's also completely not what you think. When you watch the movie, like the poster does represent the movie very much so, but it's also one of those things where it's that and a hell of a lot more that you don't expect and you're never going to think about.
Of course. When you first saw the poster, did it make you tear up? Because that's a pretty cool poster. If
Yeah,
I could do anything in my life.
I was like, "Shit, this is it. This is the poster, definitely." So it was pretty cool.
Amazing. All right. So I can't keep you all day because we got to get back to our lives, everybody. But thank you so much for coming by, Ryan. This is great. I love how spontaneous this interview was. Where can people, once again, we talked about before, where can people find you on the internet machine? Where's the best place to help?
Yeah, I think just go to Instagram and I'm under our Ryan Kruger thing, or just type in Ryan Kruger. I'm sure you'll find me, or just go to the Fry Barry movie page on Instagram, same as with Facebook. And check out frybarry.com or ryankruger.tv.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming by today, Ryan. It's been excellent.
Absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, everybody on the internet there, we will see you next time. Take it easy.